This is the last step to my sled build. And this step, I don't believe, receives enough importance. This is a protective block that I'm putting on the back of my sled so that when the blade comes through, it will reach this plug rather than come through and be exposed to me, my hands, and potentially causing me injury. This is just a slice of a tree branch with the live edge left on. Now I'm gluing it and it will be sealed later. Now this lumber is part of my recycle program. Reuse and recycle whenever possible. This, I believe, was a old table that I found on the side of the road, and it's made from laminated particle board, which is probably the most crappiest material to use in woodworking, except for jigs and fixtures. But it does have a use. And I'm going to take this discarded wood and reuse it. You can see that it had a laminated top and it is finished. But I'll be removing that lamination to get down to a more raw surface. As you can see, I'm just starting out with creating a box. And this box will have a bottom and 3 sides when I have finished. And that will be the start of this sled. Using glue and brad nails with a clamp to put pressure on the joints and to hold them in place while I brad nail them. Here you can see more of the laminated surface. It was a brown, basically. I don't know if it's a mahogany or supposed to be a walnut, something of that nature. But it's going to be my box joint cutting sled from here on out. Now I probably won't remove all of the lamination, especially from the bottom, because that'll help to aid in the least amount of friction when operating the sled. But the sides and the front, I'll probably sand those down so that I can get a different look. I don't want this look for my sled. Now it's time to start the runners. I believe I used a maple for these runners. I usually have pretty good success with maple runners. I think in the future I will experiment more with plywood runners, just because of the climate change situation. In the wintertime they shrink and they get loose. In the summertime they expand, and then they're too tight. So I always find myself having to redo the runners depending on the time of the year. But these should be good for now, but I can imagine that this summer they'll be swollen, and I'll have to remake them. These are the washers that I'll use to put into these slots to raise the runners up. I made the runners just thick enough or high enough so they sit below the table face, and these washers will raise the runners up to just about a washer's width above the table. And then once I adhere the runners to the bottom of the sled, I'll remove the washers, and the runners should be free from touching the bottom because of the spacers. I use a little CA glue usually to get started, and then I add some yellow glue for a more of a longer lasting hold. But it's probably overkill because I'm going to end up screwing these to the bottom of the box anyway, and it's probably not necessary to have both glues. The CA glue would probably do well enough, and I believe I've done that before in the past, but yellow glue is kind of a reassurance in case the screws come loose and the CA glue is not holding like it should. It'll prevent loose runners in a sled that's out of square. Now I've placed the box on the runners, and now I'll just apply a little bit of weight, and I'll wait. After a few minutes, the runners are adhered to the bottom, and it seems to be a good fit. And now we'll attach a few or apply a few screws to the bottom for a secure fit. I forgot to mention that I sanded the areas where I wanted to place the runners. I always drill a hole first and then add the screws so that the runners don't crack. If you try to add the screws without drilling the holes first, almost surely you will crack the runner, and that's no good. I cut away the excess using a Japanese pull saw, and then give a quick sanding on the ends. Now it's time to attach the final piece to the box, and this is the face piece, which will work against. As you can see here, I'm bringing the saw blade up slowly through the bottom of the box, and you can see it creates lots of dust. Now I'll set the height of the blade to the thickness or the height of the key that I've made to be installed in the face of the box. This is what we'll use to create our box joints. Now I'll bring the saw blade all the way to the end. Sorry that my arm is in the way so that you can't see the blade come through the face of the box. I'll give you a front view so you can see from this side. We just take the blade right through the face. And now we'll check to see how well the key fits. The key fits good. With a little glue, it should be a good fit. Almost perfect. Now we'll place the key in the slot. We want this sticking out about an inch from the face so that we have enough to catch the board. Now I'll slip the same size key into the kerf and then add another piece between those two, and that's how I'll set up the face in the proper positions. As you can see, I'm adding the clamps back. Now I'll remove that center piece, and now we should have our spacing right. I'll add a few screws to attach the face more permanently, but remember, I'm not using glue, so that I can remove this face and install a different face anytime I'd like. Say I wanted to go with a different size key. I'd just remove this face, cut a different slot, glue a different key, and I'm ready to go. I put screws on the sides and on the bottom so that we have a good secure hold on this face to the box. Mind you, I am drilling the hole first and then applying the screws. This is just, remember, particle board, so you don't need to put the screws in too tight. Just enough to give it good holding power, and we have enough screws to do the job. Now I'll remove the extra key from the kerf and double check my blade height, and we're just about ready to make the cut. We'll finish by cutting through the front end of the box. And there you have it. The box has been created. The box joint jig is complete in all its glory. Look at it. It's not the fanciest thing. Here I'm adding this block of wood to the back of the face where the blade comes through, so that the blade will go into this and not be exposed to my hand or any part of me and cause injury. This is just a slice of a tree branch that I squared up, and I will apply glue to and glue it right to the face. After it's dry, I'll add a finish to it, probably shellac, to seal it. Here's a few test pieces that I'm using to test it out, to prove my method. First, placing the edge of the board against the key, and then following up with placing the slots on the key. Once you make it through, flip the board, add the second piece, make your first cut, remove the first board, and then place the second board on the key, and then continue to make your cuts, placing the board on the key sequentially. Let's see how we did. It seems to fit okay. If I get the right orientation, we can see how it works. And that looks like a good box joint to me. Thanks for watching.